the first time that I remember watching this movie was on Star Movies. Um, I think I was probably just like around 10 or 11 years old. So the times that I've watched and rewatched this movie, it's been a different experience each time because the way you watch a movie as a kid is very different from the way you'd watch it when you grow up. If I just talk about Tom Hanks's character, uh, portraying someone with a genetic disorder itself is difficult when you're trying to ape someone without really mimicking them. That is so difficult because it's not slapstick comedy that you can just get away with and nobody really gives a damn.
Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. So hi Ashi, welcome to my podcast, which is called Spoiler Alert with me, Cinephile Sanket. So Ashi, today we are discussing one of your favorite films, which is called Forrest Gump, which is directed by Robert Zemeckis and which stars Tom Hanks, Sally Field, and many others as well. So first of all, Ashi, how are you? And please introduce yourself, and then please introduce this great film as well.
Hi, Sanket. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. I know we've been through a few bumps in trying to schedule our time together, but I'm so glad we're finally having this conversation. So, um, yeah, I don't identify myself as a cinephile. I just love watching movies. Um, and there are different genres that I like. I try and stay away from horror, but let's not get there. um, but in terms of this movie, like you rightly mentioned, Forrest Gump, it's for me, it's like an all-American movie. If I would define it as in one line, it's everything American in terms of going through decades of what America was going through in the 50s, 60s, 70s. It touches upon subtle racism. It talks about different terms of presidents, um, from pop culture references to their love for everything shrimp. So I think all in all, it's a very wholesome experience watching this movie. Um, and it's not something which a lot of movies can claim to have. So this was again back in the 90s. It was one of a kind sort of an experience. So
Okay.
yeah.
So first of all, Ashi, just tell me, when did you watch this film for the first time? And like when you watched this film, what did you experience about this film? And I got to know that you watched this film multiple times. Like you rewatched this film multiple times. So, what was your experience when you rewatched this film? Just tell me all about it.
So I was definitely on this planet when this movie released, but unfortunately I didn't watch it when it released. Just by I'm not sure, by sheer design or just lack of awareness. I'm not sure. Or maybe lack of single screen theaters wanting to screen that movie in Bombay at the time in 1994. I'm not sure. Maybe too many screens were going to Mohra. But I think the first time that I remember watching this movie was on Star Movies. Um, I think I was probably just like around 10 or 11 years old. So the times that I've watched and rewatched this movie, it's been a different experience each time because the way you watch a movie as a kid is very different from the way you'd watch it when you grow up. Plus with the experiences that you yourself have in your life, I think your perspective of certain actions and reactions, you kind of build your own narrative and your storyline in your head. So, yeah, as a kid, I was really fascinated with the locations, the cinematography, the beautiful Monument Valley scene, which was just etched in my memory since then. Um, but then when I grew up and when I was watching it with a lot of the emotional and the empathy side of it, I was able to relate to a lot of the reactions that Forrest had Uh, so it kind of changed as I rewatched this movie multiple times.
Wow. Uh, Unlike you, I wasn't on this planet when it first released. But thankfully, I watched this film. I don't know, maybe back in 2016. I think when I was like going through all those IMDb to top 250 films list, and then
Yeah,
I came across The Shawshank Redemption and Forrest Gump, and even The Green Mile as well, which actually starred Tom Hanks and which was directed by the
mhm,
director of The Shawshank Redemption. So all
right.
those films, like not just these, but Fight Club as well. So I I actually watched Forrest Gump, and I couldn't understand what was happening, because as you said it correctly, there were many pop culture references, many instances where there were like multiple presidents like coming into office and meeting Forrest personally. So there were like many instances of that, but like I couldn't understand any of it. Uh, so that's the thing. But when I just hooked, like I was actually hooked by the emotion of the film, like emotions of just how bhola, I would say Forrest is like and I actually loved that character Forrest Gump. He's a very loyal kind of a person, like to his girlfriend, and to and like, and he's a very loving person to his mother as well. So I just loved the good qualities of Forrest as well. And at the end, like I don't know if I cried or not, but like I actually became something like somewhat sad when Jenny died, and like uh, he actually goes on to uh, uh, yeah, I think he sends off his son to the school. So like that's a kind of a good sweet moment. And actually I miss these kind of actually Hollywood films, like a mass entertainer film. Like it's not just like a very good critically acclaimed film, but a very good mass entertainer film as well. But actually, just when recording this podcast, I actually rewatched this film, and just before rewatching this film, I got to know that Netflix actually made like it has a series called The Movies That Made Us, and the concept of that series is that every like they choose a movie, a very famous movie from the 90s and the 80s, and sometimes from the 70s as well, and they just like interview the cast and crew of the film. And they actually interviewed they actually like chose Forrest Gump as well for the second season, and they actually interviewed I think Steven, no, sorry, it's not Steven Zalian, Eric Roth, yeah,
That was
Eric.
Eric Roth, there was Wendy Feynman, and then there was also Gary Sinise.
Yeah,
Uh, they were also
even
there. Yeah,
yeah, they interviewed Eric Roth and Gary Sinise and the producers of the film, and even the execs from Paramount Studios, and like
yeah,
like like watching these shows and watching these interviews, I get to know that like how hard it is to just getting green light, like how hard it was for the producers back then, like just to get the okay, the green light sign to just make a good film. And even like the making of that film is just a story in itself, so I would say. And I think the folks at Netflix are doing such a great thing, like by interviewing these kind of people, like people behind the camera, like and the people who are responsible for green lighting these films. And I actually watched Back to the Future, the episode which was dedicated to Back to the Future as well, and like it was very kind similar kind of story, like Bob Dole and Bob Zemeckis, both like both had a kind of a rough start in Hollywood, and like just making into Hollywood, and making this film called Back to the Future. And a similar kind of thing happened in Forrest Gump as well. What like like I actually wanted to ask you, what was your favorite thing about the character Forrest Gump?
Okay, okay, all right. Um, so I just want to touch upon the making of the movie, since you touched upon that from the Netflix documentary, and then we talk about the individual characters. But from the whole movie making perspective, I think it was such an eye opener that I was, when I was prepping for our discussion, I was reading a few things. It's amazing how bit by bit, brick by brick, this movie has finally seen the light of day. When a script is just sitting on, is sitting in a box inside some room at Warner Brothers, and someone just picks it up, and then it moves from Warner Brothers to Paramount, which is a story that not a lot of people know. Um, because apparently there was a movie not very similar to Forrest Gump, but on similar lines of a genetic disorder, which was Rain Man, which completely shattered box offices in the late 80s. And that's when Warner Brothers was like, okay, the audience is done with it. They don't have an appetite for another movie on a similar, you know, genetic disorder. So let's just not shove it down their throats. And that's when Forrest Gump was again shelved. So even before it could start, it again went back in that black box. Um, so I think it was the belief of one woman, Wendy Feinerman, who really you know made it her own, as if it was her own baby, and then she just went gung ho over getting the entire cast and crew together. And of course, the character was brought to light by Eric Roth. I think such subtle nuances are shown, as we'll just discuss in a few minutes. Um, and ultimately, it was the I think the fire in the belly that was needed, which came from Bob Zemeckis and um, the protagonist of this movie, Tom Hanks, who literally funded the latter half of the project, because
Yeah.
somehow, somewhere, Paramount just slashed their budgets, and they thought, what's going to be the benefit of showing him running around all over America? And imagine, what would this movie be without those running scenes? What would this movie be without that brilliant cinematography? It's like you're taking a part of that soul out of the movie just because of budget constraints. So yeah, I think thank God for them to really go so passionate about this project, and be able to believe in it when nobody else was really believing in them. They all thought that this is like a crazy movie about a crazy guy, and no one's going to be on board for it. But here we are, almost 25 years later, talking about this movie so passionately. Uh, so yeah, I think it really it speaks volumes of what belief those people had back then. Uh, so glad that the movie finally got made. And talking about the characters, I think if I just talk about Tom Hanks's character, uh, portraying someone with a genetic disorder itself is difficult when you're trying to ape someone without really mimicking them. That is so difficult, because it's not slapstick comedy that you can just get away with and nobody really gives a damn. It is you have to have an empathetic side towards the character. You have to connect with it to be able to make the audience connect to it. Um, and when his mom says life is like a box of chocolates, you never know which one you're going to get. uh, we were definitely not sure what we are going to get when we went to watch this movie. And I'm talking about people who actually saw this movie in the theaters back then. They came out pleasantly surprised, because Tom Hanks before this was doing a bit of comedy, a bit of romance. Sleepless in Seattle, again, another amazing movie. But They had not really seen him do something like this. So, when you are already, when you've watched Dustin Hoffman play that brilliant character in Rain Man, it's so easy for you to compare Tom Hanks to him and say, you know what, he's just trying to rip off a Dustin Hoffman. That's what a typical average moviegoer would have said. So how do you really hold your ground in that character, make it your own, and make the audience cry with you whenever you've cried on screen? So just the whole process of him making Forrest Gump himself, uh, that itself was amazing. And I'd give a shout out to even the child actor who played Forrest Gump, because they were really struggling to give him a voice. You know, Tom Hanks, in multiple interviews, has said he wasn't really sure how he would sound. He understood his mannerisms, but he wasn't really sure if he would talk too fast or talk too slow, talk in his normal voice. He wasn't sure. And it was only when they auditioned the child actor, and the child actor actually was not even an actor. That was just how he spoke regularly. He was just a kid. And looking at him, they were like, I've found my voice, and this is how I'm going to be talking in a very, that baritone and that slow manner, like, hi, I'm Forrest Gump, So that is that kind of completed the whole character for him. I think just the whole process of Tom Hanks becoming Forrest Gump was amazing.
But you just a few minutes ago, you just said that without those these running movements, there would be no Forrest Gump as we know right now. Uh, it's like such a brilliant line you said, such a brilliant thing you said, just because I can relate to that scene with a like a symbolism, I think. And people just go into the film and just watch that he is just running for 2.5 years, but people don't get the feeling about why he is running, and running, the symbolism behind that. People just don't get it. Sometimes people just do something just like that, just for no reason. And even the character Forrest Gump just tells that I was just tired, and I just wanted to run, and that's the reason he just chose to run, and he ran, and that's the that's the funny part of it. And we also in our life, we just do something just like uh, without a reason, and that's the beauty of this great scene as well. And even uh, you also touched upon actually I touched upon that documentary, but you just extended what I just told right now, just before you. But yeah, I actually got to know that how greatly they used the VFX scenes for Lieutenant Dan as well, just by showing the crippled part of it, the handicap part of it, and even portraying that character was such a fucking difficult thing, it was, and thanks to Gary Sinise, he just portrayed it so perfectly. And in that documentary, I just got to know that he didn't receive the Oscar award, but he didn't win the Oscar, but he actually got another great honor, an equal honor, by the by the yeah, disabled
Dedicated
community of the
veteran.
army wing. I think if I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but yeah, that was the committee. They gave Gary Sinise the award for realistically portraying a disabled army officer, and the after effects of it. And you just mentioned Dustin Hoffman also in a year, and somewhat indirectly, I think Gary Sinise actually paid tribute to Dustin Hoffman and this film called Midnight Cowboy. And so there's a like a very famous scene where Dustin Hoffman just taps the bonnet of of a car and just says, I'm walking, I'm walking," and the same the exact scene was depicted in this film as well, by Lieutenant Dan. And he like Forrest was just Forrest and Lieutenant Dan were just going in somewhere, and uh, a car crashes to Lieutenant Dan's wheelchair, and like he just portrays that moment, how Dusty Hoffman's character portrayed that. So like that was something interesting parallel as well. And even he like Forrest Gump. I don't know, like many people in India won't know that, but uh, when I watched this film on Netflix, actually in the subtitle section, it was the when he there's a scene when he meets Jenny just before, like he gives the speech in front in Washington DC.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, yeah. The
he
Lincoln
actually
Memorial.
meets
Yeah.
Abby Hoffman. And like, I don't know, you know Abby Hoffman. He is like he was one of the protagonists, the lead character, I would say, like in the trial of the Chicago 7. So
Hmm.
like that was I didn't realize this moment until I watched the trial of the Chicago 7. So
And I think that was played by Sacha Baron Cohen.
Sasha Baron Cohen, exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was such a great parallel over there as well. Like he met Abby Hoffman as well. Like he also met Elvis Presley. I don't know which scene, and I couldn't, because I haven't listened to any Elvis's songs. Like I know all the presidents, but like
Really?
yeah, when did he
After
meet?
this, I'll just send you Jailhouse Rock. I think you need to hear that.
Sure. But like,
Yeah.
can you tell me when did you? Sorry, when did he meet Elvis? Like, which scene? Like, I can't.
It was, in fact, the first celebrity that he meets in the movie when
Okay,
he's small. He's the child actor. So
okay.
he's basically so his mom runs this bed and breakfast, sort of like this lodging and boarding kind of thing. And so Elvis was one of those guys who was staying at their bed and breakfast for a brief time before he became Elvis. So you know how Forrest is, if we're just talking about the movie in detail now, when he's meeting, and then he's having his own sort of, he contributed to that, and he did this, and that's how this person became great. How they draw that parallel. So apparently Elvis's that step, with that kind of that knee jerk dance movement that he's so famously known for, that was actually, according to the movie, what Forrest sort of was doing in front of him, because he was actually, he was a polio boy, so he was having braces on his legs and he wasn't able to move them properly. So it was actually with those, uh, I shouldn't be saying this, but deformed legs, that he was trying to dance when Elvis was playing the guitar. And Elvis loved that step so much. And he's like, kid, do that again for me. And that's when he copied that, um, or got inspired by that step which Forrest does. So that's when they were watching. The next scene is he and his mama, they're walking down the street and they're watching TV screens, and this guy's on the screen a few years later, and then he's doing the exact same step that Forrest was doing in that room for him. So yeah, that he was in fact the first celebrity that he meets in the movie,
Oh,
before the presidents and before all of that. Yeah.
wow. Like I couldn't know, because like sure, after this conversation you'll send me Elvis's songs. But yeah, actually, interestingly, 2 years back, actually, I read a book called The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared. So have you like known about like, have you heard about this
I
novel?
have, I have. I've not read the book, but I know about it.
Yeah, you should read the book. But like, I actually have that novel as well. And such a like that actually, that novel is such a great novel as well. Like it's just like a Forrest Gump. Like it's not exactly like it, but like events are much inspired by Forrest Gump, because like every time the lead character in that novel, he meets each and every president, and each and not just president, but other dictators as well, not just like from Russia, from China, from Spain, and like other countries as well. So like that's an interesting character as well. And here also this guy Forrest Gump, he's meeting like everyone and like anyone, and even he's investing in Apple as well, before like before Apple was Apple, and like and even
Invested in some fruit company.
fruit company, exactly. And even
Yeah.
that time, I don't know, no, like there was a was there a huge hype for Apple, but like I think that film was ahead of its time, because right now there's a like a huge hype for Apple right now. And like now I am realizing that, oh wow, that film was actually way ahead of its time, because like, they were
Yeah,
talking
we're
about
talking about
Apple.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're talking about like mid 90s. I'm pretty sure Apple, at least in the US, was pretty big because they did come up with the Macintosh by then, for sure.
Mhm. No, no,
So
no.
that
So
was
the character was in the 80s, right? So
right.
yeah.
Right. So
So
that's what they say. He was like one of the early investors in Apple. So it's amazing how they have got this one guy who's doing so much when America was changing, and he was involved in so many of those pivotal points. Because if I really talk about it, the Vietnam War was a pivotal point for America. JFK assassination was a pivotal point for America. The whole drug abuse and the whole that dark decade of like HIV and everything, that was again a pivotal point for like medical sciences to come up with breakthrough remedies and therapies. So he's sort of been involved and touched upon so many of those and you know those building blocks of America, that is why it's amazing, because the Library of Congress in 2011 actually put Forrest Gump in under the National Film Archives section for being regionally and racially and aesthetically all American. So this is one of those movies which really talks to so many things that the US was going through, good, bad, and evil. So yeah.
mhm. But I actually like wanted to bring this up, because obviously since everyone knows this, but have you heard that Bollywood is also making its own Forest Gump, with like Amir Khan is making it. So have you heard about it? Like and like, are you excited about this film? How are you like excited about this?
Can I honestly say no? Really, I am not, because uh, I don't know. I trust my gut a lot in these things, which is why I don't even read reviews when I make up my mind to watch a movie. And if my gut says go for it, I'll go for it. So I know that I will watch it, but I know that anything that is made as a remake of something, uh, it lacks that sheer originality. Is my take on it, because especially after knowing what Forrest Gump has gone through, getting bits and pieces together and getting people involved, getting people invested in this project, and finally making it what it is. And then there is this ready-made product that you can just lift and then, brand it in your way. I'm sure they are gonna Indianize it like we do with all movies. Um, with a lot of song and dance and a lot of other things involved. I know that it will again be a wholesome movie, but just because if they're trying to make an exact replica of Forrest Gump, it's going to fall flat on its face, because a lot of people have already watched the original. I really hope that there would be something in that movie that is its own, that's something that happens in his life, or something which we can go back and say, okay, yeah, this was Amir doing his own thing. He wasn't really trying to be the Indian Tom Hanks. And I would so love for him to do something like that because he's capable of that. He's given us so many amazingly original characters. And I so wish that Lal Singh Chaddha is one of those, despite all the media hype that, oh, it's going to be like a Forrest Gump thing. If they move away from that and if they just talk about that movie with its having its own originality, I think that is the only way it's really going to be successful. And I'm not talking success in terms of box office numbers, but that's a whole different debate. I'm talking about a movie that will be remembered for its originality, just the way we remember Forrest Gump for its originality.
Absolutely, we
And
all love Forrest Gump, like the character Forrest Gump, for like just like that way. So I hope like it turns out that way as well for Lal Singh Chaddha as well. Yeah, but
yeah,
yeah, you were saying something that.
I was just talking about it because when I was revisiting this movie just last week, the the way the characters are even portrayed in this movie in terms of, if you, on the outside it looks like one man's journey, that he's going through all of this. He's going to Vietnam, he's fighting all these wars, he's coming back, he's getting the President's Medal of Freedom, he's basically, it's his story. But in reality, there are, every character that is in his life has hugely contributed towards making him what he ultimately became. His mother, she taught him that, don't let anybody belittle you for who you are. Just those small one-liners. And he says, Mama always had a way of, explaining things to me. That's just what you do for your child. When he saw that unconditional love from his mom, and then the next woman in his life was his childhood friend, his long lost, love that he keeps losing and getting back, losing and getting back. I think even the relationship between him and Jenny, a lot of people would just on the outset consider and term toxic. That, she is not good for him, and she tells him that she's not good for him, and you stay away. You can't keep rescuing me like this, Forrest. And he just has the simplest answers to her complex questions. He just says, because you're my girl. And yeah, sometimes love is that simple, and you don't need to complicate it. So Jenny knew that she's trouble for him, and she's not going to be able to, be there for him. It's not that there wasn't any love between them, because later they do, he has his child, and she raises him in the best manner possible. She turns her life around for his baby. So of course there was love, but not the traditional soaking in the rain wet kind of love. It was more deep rooted and more, it was coming from a place of stability, that no matter what, this man has my back. No matter where I go in the world, no matter what I do, who I'm with, I know that he's going to be there for me. And that sort of love needs no uh, explanation. It doesn't need any, any proof or any kind of, it's just there. It's there, and two people know it, that you have that sort of love. So there
And
are times when in the movie,
even Lieutenant Dan, and I'm sorry I'm cutting you out, but like, even
no,
Lieutenant Dan as well, like he actually has a very great role, a very supporting secondary role as well. Like I don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
without him, like what Forrest would have been, the because at the end I actually sympathized with Lieutenant Dan, because at the end he just tells Forrest that I didn't thank you for saving my life. And I was at such an like it was such an emotional moment,
yeah,
that moment, like. And even his portrayal of like Lieutenant Dan as well, like not just abusing all the time, but even portraying like what he actually faces, the character actually faces, like not just like
Hmm.
he actually is frustrated from the life, like, and even he is actually shocked why Forrest saved him, and he should have died with his army men in the battlefield. But like now here
Yeah.
he is crippled, and like here he is celebrating Christmas and all those thing, like in the ship as well, catching shrimps. So I think my favorite personal, like secondary character beside, like the character beside Forrest was Lieutenant Dan. Like I still love that character, and even like that actor, Gary Sinise as well. Like he is also doing good for the army personnel as well in real life, actually, like inspired by the character Lieutenant Dan. Like and as we have seen in the Netflix special, the movies that made us, so he actually is doing something like extraordinary for the army personnel. Like I just
Yes, yes,
love
yes,
that as
yes.
well of him.
I think when you portray this character so passionately, and when you're being awarded so generously, it's only human that your heart wrenches for people who have, it's one thing to lose your life in the battlefield. Then it's a completely different thing to lose a part of yourself and still continue living. In my opinion, that is way tougher. That is way tougher because your entire life changes, and simple things that you're used to doing, you can't really do them with ease anymore. So I think that's when your heart genuinely reaches out to people, like, and you've been in those shoes, albeit playing a character, but you've still been in those shoes for a brief period of time. So you relate to what they go through on an everyday basis. Um, and just talking about the VFX for Gary Sinise, because I know you touched upon it earlier in our discussion. Um, the VF, because they were on such a shoestring budget, the VFX actually, there was not really the VFX that we see today. They literally had green screens, and they sort of did a lot of computer graphics, and basically, so even the scene where he's jumping off the ledge into the river, he's actually having his legs intact, and they have a green screen for the parapet that he sort of climbs and jumps over, and that's what they've edited later in post production. So this is how they've managed to, even get all the American presidents, and all the characters that you actually see. John Lennon, who was on that talk show with him, and then he's like, later someone just shot him when he was on the way to meet his kid. So without taking the names of those people, for obvious reasons, uh, they've still managed to talk about them. They've still managed to show those actual events in history. And of course, the 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 without the budget for having fancy VFX, you still manage to narrate that story. And even talking about the location of Vietnam, when that scene where the whole forest is blown up because of that airstrike. So fun fact, actually, all of that, of course, they were not going to go to Vietnam again because of the budget constraints. They actually had this place in South Carolina, uh, Beaufort, South Carolina, where they've shot not only all of Forrest's home scenes with Jenny's farm, they've also managed to get a rainforest sort of looking space in South Carolina, and they called it Vietnam. And then when they had to blow up, they literally just had like firecrackers bursting everywhere. And then with a little bit of computer graphics, they sort of made it look like explosions. And we still believe that this was actually Vietnam being blown up. So
Absolutely.
yeah, for 1994, that was a massive achievement for them. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But Ashi, like finally, I have to end this conversation right here. But like uh, I'm regretting to like inform you that, because I know how we love, like we both love this film, but still like we have to end this conversation here. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Ashi, for coming to my podcast, and it's been a real pleasure and an honor for having you and talk about this film Forest Gump in this conversation.
Thank you, Sanket. And yeah, I think back to the movies, and I'll see you in our next discussion, whichever that is.
Sure, sure, sure. I'll be honored. Like I'll be honored to invite you back. Like discussing some another film as well. So, thank you
So,
so much. Until then, goodbye.
yeah, thank you for having me. Bye.